Hey indie filmmakers, Griffin here. Last year I started attending these local filmmaker meetings. They've been a great forum for meeting other talented filmmakers and sharing some tricks of the trade. Here I'm answering a few questions about my documentary Sriracha.
Anybody have any questions right out of the gate?
A quick question for Griffin. Since you just finished your documentary, how did you figure out your budget for Sriracha?
Can't say that I figured it out very well. I think I just kind of said like, I'm gonna do this no matter what. But I knew it was mostly gonna be travel budget because I was willing to work for free for my own project and I wasn't asking a lot of other people to do very much. So yeah, I mean it was pretty much all flights and rental cars and hotels, and that amounted to $11,000. But I think I knew it would probably be in that ballpark. I think I knew I needed about $10,000. So it was close. Although I think in the end, what surprised me was I had to spend $1,400 to use 30 seconds of archival news footage. That's just the internet rights in perpetuity and film festival rights for 1 year. I actually just added another $1,000 license so that I can sell Blu-rays and DVDs, Blu-rays and DVDs, which to me just sounds ridiculous to spend $2,400.
For the boat, for the shots of the boat?
Yeah.
Did you think about cutting the boat for the Blu-ray and DVD release?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Or having Wiley like doing our artist rendering?
Right.
Replace it with like the drawings of the boat. You know?
A la Cosmos.
Well, and what's funny is I've thought about this recently, about fair use, and if this were publicly accessible footage, then you might be able to make a fair use argument. Like, I needed this footage to tell that part of the story, and I only used as much as was necessary. But when you have footage that's like locked up in an archive, there is no fair use argument. But now that I've released it, I almost wonder
Someone else could make a fair use.
Well, I was wondering, like if I make a sequel, am I allowed to fair use my own work? I have no idea.
So you put the doc up on demand on Vimeo, right?
Yes.
How's the revenue stream from that?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel weird about talking about the exact numbers. But it's been surprisingly good, especially when you make a project to not make any money. I mean, you just make it because you're like, this is a cool story. And so the fact that the Kickstarter campaign paid for the production and now all the money it's made on Vimeo is all like, it's not profit because I didn't get paid. So it's kind of like, it's just slowly paying me back for the work I did.
Sure.
And I feel like I set a financial goal for myself, and where if I hit that number, it's like, I've paid myself back and this was worth doing. Like, I could do this every year and it would be, I wouldn't be in the hole. And I'm about 3/4 of the way there for the year. So I'm really happy with how it's done.
Quick.
Yeah. Of course, now it's like really tapered off. There was an initial rush. I feel like I did a good job of getting people to buy the film right when it came out.
Maybe there's stuff in Irwindale going on right now will give you an extra push because it's in the news.
Yeah, I'm now on like the main page of Google when you search Sriracha. Like I'm like number 4 or something.
Wow.
So every time Sriracha's in the news, I get a little spike in purchases.
Did all the press happen organically, or were you purposely helping that to happen?
It was both. The press started when I started shooting the documentary, which was kind of amazing. Because I started filming with Randy Clemens. He's the author, the cookbook author that's in the film. And he's a writer, so he knows all the writers in LA. So he just posted something on Facebook saying like, hey look, I'm in a documentary. And all of a sudden some local LA publication picked that up from there. And then I've kind of discovered with the press, they're a lot more receptive to believing like they discovered the story than you pitching them the story. So seeding it into a low-level publication and then let it go up the chain. So
help them find it.
Yeah. So by getting it into OC Weekly, then it moved up the chain all the way up to Huffington Post. I mean, it just shot up. And I thought it was hilarious because it's like, if the headline was Illinois independent filmmaker begins production on a short film documentary, like that's not a story, but it's because of Sriracha. That's what people were excited about. And then that was all very organic, but when the film came out, I made sure to go back to the same reporters that had talked about it way at the beginning, and I just said, hey, just so you know, I always try to write a really personal message. I don't want to send press releases to the media. I said, hey, I really loved your headline back in March. You know, thanks for being one of the first people to cover the film. Just want to let you know it's coming out next week. and then I feel like you kind of guilt them into, they're like, well, if I'm a real journalist, I better follow up.
Plus, it's easy. It's an
Easy press.
yeah.
But I think if I just sent them like a press release, like Sriracha premieres today, go buy it, they wouldn't have. I don't think they'd talk about it.
You know, there's that last really awesome shot of the sea of barrels of hot sauce, and it looked like there was a crane.
Yeah.
But I thought that was in California. You know, so I mean, what was it like shooting when you had to fly there and you weren't carrying like big rows of Pelican cases?
Right. So yeah, in both cases, both that final shot, which I'll talk about in a second, and going to Thailand, I just tried to save a lot of money by not doing that, not bringing a lot of crap. So actually, in Thailand, I couldn't even afford to bring anyone with me to help me. So I got Randy Clemens, the guy in the film, to come with me because I knew he had enough money to pay for his own way, and he wanted to go. So rather than spending some money, like I had a camera assistant come with me to LA the first time I shot, but then when we went to Thailand, I thought I can probably pick up what I need myself, and as long as I have someone who can hold a mic for me. So that's why I had Randy come. And then we found a fan of Indie Mogul, the YouTube channel I used to run, who lived in Thailand and had offered to help. He was invaluable because otherwise we didn't know what we were saying to anyone, and we weren't. So we were able to conduct a bunch of interviews in Thai thanks to him. So yeah, it was super bare bones in Thailand. All the money was just to get there. And then that final shot in the film is a forklift. I don't have a crane. And there's forklifts all over the factory, and we thought, oh, it'd be cool to throw the tripod on the forklift. And it's shaky, so I put warp stabilizer on it. It looked beautiful.
Sweet.
Did you run into any dead ends?
Yeah, I mean, I was my own producer on it, so I was spending a lot of time emailing people that I thought should be in the film. Randy, the cookbook author, did a great job of giving me a list of people I should probably talk to in just about any city I went to. When I went to New York, when I went to Chicago, he had people in mind that were related to the Sriracha world. And so like when I went to New York, for instance, we had this great list of chefs, and most of them were not getting back to me, which was disappointing. But then it seemed like every time we'd hit a roadblock like that, someone would pop up magically. Like we were at the fancy food show in New York, and I had talked my way into having press credentials, and they were excited about the film I was making. So like, yeah, sure, you can have press credentials. So I was in the press office talking to those people, and their press person is married to the guy who does press for Harold Dieterle. He's the chef who won the first season of Top Chef. She was like, I could probably get you an interview with Harold Dieterle. You want that? It's like, yeah, that's way better than the chefs that have turned me down. And when we got to Thailand, I'd had no luck getting a hold of the company in Thailand that makes their version of Sriracha. But this kid who speaks Thai was able to get on the phone and just talk us in. Whereas I think they had been avoiding my emails because they didn't know what I was saying. I think they had some concerns, and they just didn't know how to voice those concerns about the project.
Did you try to get a hold of the deal now?
Yeah, that was another one. I tried repeatedly to get a hold of Matt Inman, who is a cartoonist at a website called The Oatmeal. And he has this great Sriracha cartoon that I think a lot of people associate. When they think of Sriracha, they think of this cartoon, or they've discovered Sriracha because of this cartoon. And I thought he'd be a great interview, and he must have seen my messages. I talked to his agent, but he just didn't ever get back to me. So I wonder if maybe he had been burned somehow by Hoi Fung Foods. Maybe he got a cease and desist letter for selling a lot of unauthorized merchandise and just
Pun
figured.
intended.
Yeah.
Burned, get it?
Oh yeah, that was unintended.
You know.
So he may just not have wanted to be in something like this. But that's kind of what's cool about a documentary is it doesn't have to be what you set out to make, and no one would really know that it was bad or wrong.
Write and rewrite.
Yeah, it's a recursive process. You get what you can, and then you rewrite the film. So that was just me answering questions about my film. If you want to keep watching, I have more Q&A with a couple filmmakers named Chris and Oliver. They made a great music video for the band Elsinore called The Art of Pulling, and you should probably click right here to check it out and then come back and watch the Q&A. Otherwise, you won't really know what they're talking about. But if you want to learn some more filmmaking tricks from a couple talented filmmakers, check that video out and then just keep watching this video. It's just going to keep rolling for like for a while.
So hopping over to another genre, I'd like to hear about the development of the art of pulling. Like how much?
Oh yeah.
A lot of really interesting visual ideas in there. Like how did you go about developing that?
It's a good story.
What's the smoke? What is that?
So like what was
is that?
what actually was it?
That was my question.
Yeah.
It's like that looked awesome.
So part of that came through a series of conversations we were having over multiple meetings at Cafe Kopi. Lots and lots of meetings, and it might have been caffeine induced or otherwise, but a lot of it had to come through from Ryan Groff, who's the lead singer of Elsinore. He was kind of producer on the film, and then Teresa Ellis, who works at Surface 51, she was kind of our art director on the film, and it was a very collaborative effort in that we kept throwing out a bunch of ideas, and I can't really remember how color came into play.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, when we started the conversation, just because of the song, Ryan Groff, the lead singer, wanted the concept of pulling, and we were like, well, okay, why don't we, and that kind of represented, pulling your burdens or your hopes and your dreams, and it kind of evolved to like, okay, well, we'll have a lot of people pulling and interacting with, the band, but the way the color came about, I think that was just like, how can we translate this visually?
Yeah, how can we translate these moments of, because they were like, these moments of inspiration, how can we like physically, I guess, translate onto screen? And I guess we were like looking for visual representation, and we came across a picture of like, color 5K races. We're like, oh man, that would look really great on film. And then we started reverse engineering, how could we tie that into the idea? And that was the trickiest part though, because we bought color 5K powder. We had like small, we were using bike pumps for a little while to try to get this thing to shoot out of funnels.
Yeah.
Because, if we had the budget, we would have gone full tilt and like did some crazy air cannons where they're shooting ridiculous amounts of powder into the air.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way people usually do it is to get like big compressed air cans. And then like they have a funnel, they fill it up, and then they'll just release the valve.
Yeah.
We didn't know anything about that, so we're like, you know what? We had like really, we didn't have much time to do the pre-production, so we were just like, you know what? Chris had a friend who was it Iraq?
Yeah, he served in Afghanistan. He posted this photo and he goes, "Why not set off 15 color grenades in a field?" And it was him in his like full-on gear, just walking through a field, and there was just smoke bombs going off everywhere. And he's since came back, and I told him the story. He's like, "Oh man, that's awesome! I'm so glad I could inspire the video." Because basically, from him serving on the field, we saw this awesome photo, and we're like, maybe we can get a hold of, like, smoke grenades, colored smoke grenades.
Yeah.
And so we started doing our research, and military-grade smoke grenades are pretty intense and very expensive. So yeah, well,
How expensive? I'm just curious.
I don't know the actual figure. It's very like, because they last for a long time too. I mean, and they're very dense and billowy. But we opted to do smoke grenades that you could buy from paintball, like this paintball place that's just maybe a couple. I don't know, where is it, Indiana or something? Or it's down south. I don't know where it is.
It still wasn't cheap. For
yeah,
sure.
it wasn't cheap.
So this is fire ignited.
Pop.
You pull
a pin, twist and pull, and
Like
then
fireworks.
and then it starts fizzling up.
Yeah.
And
I imagine it stays in the air better than powder would. Does
it
powder
hangs.
fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a cool look.
Yeah, we lucked out with wind on that day on the farm too. Like the wind was really, we didn't have to rent wind machines or anything. It was just really carrying the smoke. But because of the budget, I mean, we could have easily gone through like 300 of those, but we ended up going through about 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, 20 would be good. No, we went through that like.
We're like, where did the 20 smoke grenades go?
Like, 50 would be good. Now we better buy another 75. So,
yeah.
And that was not cheap either.
Yeah. So there was one shot in particular where we saved a bunch to set off all over downtown. We managed to talk through one connection or another to talk to the owner of M2, Cody. And so we were able to climb up to the roof and shoot from the top of the roof. And we had people staged all over the city. We got a permit We did this.
Anna was one.
Yeah, Anna was one of them. This is a great story. So we had everyone staged up, and then we had the proper permit just in case people were wondering, like, why are smoke grenades going off in the middle of downtown? Well, the problem was it was really windy that day. So instead of things being lifted up, they were just blown off to the side. And Anna's is the only real smoke grenade going off in the shot, like because it was in this alleyway and it was protected from the wind. And then she was like Lord of the Flies, you know, doing this little
smoke dance.
Yeah, and so Ollie had to do some composite work to make, you know, the rest of the stuff like look legit. And so yeah, hope that answers the question about the smoke.
What equipment did you use to shoot?
What's that?
What camera did you use?
Oh yeah.
We used the Sony FS700, and we went for that because we knew we wanted to do slow motion. For a couple of reasons. Number one, smoke, and I mean, why not? You know. Number two, because we didn't have professional actors, we thought that the slow motion would kind of help, just give a little bit extra visual kick to it. But yeah, and the camera's great because it could go up to 240 frames per second at full HD, which was nice. And you can go higher than that, but you start losing resolving power.
Yeah, for pickup shots, we ended up shooting a little bit on the red. I think we were using the red for another project.
Yeah.
So we did some pickup on the smoke for that.
Yeah, because that could do the Epic could do 120 frames per second, which actually we didn't even use 240 most of the time. That was too slow, unless there was a lot of motion. So 120 was kind of the sweet spot for us.
How did the whole project come about? Were you just fans and you approached
Oh
them?
yeah, so I was introduced to Ryan's music through my brother-in-law who used to live here, and he's like, "Hey man, you're really gonna like this band," and I loved Elsinore's music, so I was a fan from the get-go. Turns out prior to jumping into filmmaking full-time, I was a teacher for 7 years at Next Generation School, and Ryan taught guitar lessons there. So I would see him in the teacher's lounge every day, and we would just chat it up. And my wife started taking guitar lessons from him, and then after that we became friends. And then it was always in the back burner of like this idea of like really want you to do someday down the line we're gonna have to work together and do a video. Someday down the line we're gonna have to work together and do video. And that someday came, and that's how it kind of organically, you know, came together like that. Yeah.
Where did the idea come from of people just running with stuff? You know, running with their. Lindsay Scott was running with her painting, and I mean, all these people are running with stuff.
So again, that was one of those ideas where everyone was kind of contributing to that. We knew that there had to be some type of pulling of some kind, and originally it started off as this idea where like we want people to be, you know, pulling something that is representative of something in life, like. You know, they're a Midwestern band, and as Midwesterners, we know, like, suffering through this long winter, we're like blue-collar hustle people. You know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps type people. We hustle hard and we work type people. That's what we are in the Midwest. You know, nothing comes easy. And so it's like this idea of, like, pulling along your burdens or picking up your career and going, and that's what Ryan was carrying into writing the song. He's like, that was the idea of that. So Teresa just we together sat down with a list of like, what could we all just like pull and like grab things and you know, run with on a field. And the original idea was to just converge on the band, and then everyone would kind of just be watching the band. You know, everyone would come to the field pulling their stuff, and that would be the epicenter. But we changed that and said, you know, the band is like, their story is that they're just as much blue-collar workers as everybody else here. So the color inspiration was like, when they saw the smoke going off, they grabbed their own instruments and started running with everybody else too.
Right.
You know,
kind of like maybe their song was kind of the anthem, but then when they saw the movement and the effect it was having on people, they were like inspired to join along, and that's kind of what happened at the end. Yeah, but there was some stuff that we couldn't get a hold of. We wish we did, like a huge grandfather clock. That would have been awesome. We wanted like a guy in a strongman suit, like pulling something with his teeth. You know, that would have been awesome. We had a lot of ideas.
We had a ton of ideas. We're like, you know.
There's ideas and there's reality.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. Well, we were trying to beat the winter. Is basically what we were doing.
Yeah, because we knew once it got cold, I mean,
winter was coming.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
It came full force. Like I remember we had, the shoot was technically 10 days, and then the band was going to go on a short tour. But we had some pickup shots, so when they came back, we had to shoot the pickup shots, and it was like that 1 week before the snow was about to come. And now the sun is still looking pretty similar, but at this point it's like 20 degrees colder, and they had to wear the same exact things, you know. And we went to Prairie Fruits Farm to shoot this stuff, and it was pretty cold, you know. It was really cold on the field for the pickups, but yeah. Oh, one note. There's that sequence where, so Jerry, we call him Jerry Sadman, because he was the sad man in the film. He's a smoker in the film. We came across him because if you ever go to Cafe Kopi and there's like 4 old dudes just kind of sitting outside in the summer, he's like one of those guys. And turns out that the band's drummer, his dad is one of those 4 old dudes that sits out there chilling. And so Jerry's been a longtime fan of like Elsinore. Wow. And he's like just the nicest guy, but he was so perfect for having like those dead eyes, and he's a cigar smoker. So we felt real bad because he was smoking tobacco all night long in Parasol Studios. But
we were literally having him chain smoke, and we were all breathing in the secondhand. There was no ventilation.
It was pretty brutal, but we needed the shots.
Yeah.
But there's a sequence where his thing of inspiration, he's kind of just locked inside his crappy room and just watching TV. And he runs out with this TV, and it's like dragging, and that's an old CRT TV. And he's like, Ollie gave it like a little bit of a launch too, so there's a tumble when he's running with it. That thing still works. You can plug it in.
What?
And it goes. It's like built like a tank, those CRTs, you know? Didn't crack the screen, anything. And we made him run down that block like 5 times, right? Wow. That thing works. It's remarkable. Like, really? I'm pretty... We haven't tried putting in a VHS in it because it had a built-in VCR. But it could still work. We didn't try that. I don't know, but definitely.
Did you guys build that room as a set in Parasol?
Yeah, a lot of credit goes to Teresa for that. She brought in a lot of the props, and then when we came in, we just kind of rearranged it because the challenge for that was we knew we had to do 2 angles, and the way that the doorways were, we had to rotate the whole set after we shot 1 angle, and that was kind of a pain, but yeah, that was kind of built, yeah.
How long did that take for her to set design?
Oh,
so
yeah,
like a day or like
she just so she would gather in a bunch of stuff and then basically email us and sign off or text us like I found this like crazy looking carpet, or guys, I found like all the beer bottles we need, you know.
Found.
Yes. Found all the beer bottles we need. Yeah. And so she was basically as we were shooting and setting up on location for another place, she was bringing props to the next location and leaving it there for us to kind of decide on where things go. But yeah, so she just basically had like everything, and we just had to go there and finesse it.
Yeah, for us, our shooting hours was, for whatever reason, it was really late at night every day. So we would be working throughout, 12 till like 6 a.m. and then she would. During the day, we would be like getting a couple hours of shut-eye, and then I guess she'd be gathering props, and then the cycle rinse and repeat. So that's kind of how that worked.
Yeah, shooting hours were pretty crazy on that one. Yep.